Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be diving into something pretty fascinating. Um, the Philippine judiciary has this plan to modernize.
Modernize big time.
Yeah, really modernize.
Yeah.
Using technology and get this, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this is they're not just talking about, adding a few new pieces of software here and there. They're really going for a complete overhaul. And they're laser focused on a really clear objective, making justice more efficient, more transparent, and probably most importantly, accessible to literally every single Filipino.
Okay, now that's what I call ambitious. But I think before we get into all the details about the AI and algorithms and all that, let's just take a step back for a second. What is the driving force behind this massive modernization push?
So you can kind of imagine this legal system that's really struggling to keep pace with the digital age, right? We've got mountains of paperwork, slow processes, and for a lot of Filipinos, especially those in far-flung areas, just getting to a court can be a major hurdle. So this plan is about facing those problems head on.
So it's not just about fancy tech for the sake of it. It's about solving these real-world problems that people are facing right now.
Exactly. They're basically saying that in today's world, justice delayed is justice denied. And technology can really be a powerful tool to bridge those gaps and make the system much more responsive to the needs of the people.
Okay, so let's talk about this AI. I've heard so much buzz about it in legal circles, but honestly, it still feels a little like science fiction to me. How would this actually work in a courtroom?
You can think of it as like a superpowered legal assistant.
Okay.
So picture AI just sifting through mountains of legal documents like that in seconds, finding the most relevant information, or even, translating complex legal jargon into, plain language that anyone can understand.
So no more spending hours and hours poring over dusty law books.
Exactly.
Struggling to figure out what the heck they're actually saying.
Exactly.
Oh, man. That would be a huge relief for a lot of people, myself included. But what about the human element, though? I think some people might worry that bringing AI into the courtroom could make justice feel very cold and impersonal.
That's a very valid concern. And, it's something that the plan actually addresses head on. They're not talking about replacing judges and lawyers with robots. Instead, they see AI as a way to enhance human capabilities, help legal professionals do their jobs more efficiently and effectively, which ultimately, frees them up to focus more on those very human aspects of justice.
So it's about freeing up their time and energy to focus on, what really matters. Fairness, empathy, making sure everyone has a chance to be heard.
Exactly. It's about empowering those who uphold the law, not replacing them.
I like that.
And one area where this could have a really big impact is in, addressing that shortage of court stenographers.
Yes, that's a major bottleneck in the system. I mean, cases are getting delayed simply because there just aren't enough stenographers to transcribe everything that's being said in court.
Exactly. And that's where AI-powered voice-to-text transcription comes into play.
Okay.
The plan proposes using this technology to help stenographers out, potentially speeding up the process and making sure that every single word is recorded accurately.
Okay, that sounds really promising. But what about accuracy? I mean, legal language can be incredibly precise. Are we sure that AI can handle all of those nuances?
So they're not just jumping into this blindly. They're actually going to be doing a pilot program to test out the viability and the accuracy of this technology in various courts, across Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, taking into account all those different languages and dialects.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they're really thinking this through.
Yeah.
That attention to detail is really encouraging. It shows that they're really serious about making this work for everyone, regardless of, where they live or what language they speak. But, let's be honest, access to information is a huge hurdle in legal matters. And I was really intrigued by this idea of a judiciary e-library.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Picture a vast online library.
Okay.
Accessible to anyone.
All right.
Containing legal precedents, case law statutes, and even analysis of potential outcomes based on specific case details.
Okay.
That's the vision behind this judiciary e-library.
Okay, so that sounds incredible in theory. But in practice, I mean, would you need a law degree just to navigate something like that?
Not at all.
Okay.
They're planning to integrate AI-powered search engine that uses natural language processing. That means you could search for info using everyday language, just like you would on Google. And the system would understand what you're looking for and give you accurate, easy-to-understand results.
Okay, so no more wrestling with all that crazy legal jargon.
Exactly.
That would be a game changer, especially for people who are, representing themselves or just trying to understand their legal rights.
And just to make it even more user-friendly, they're exploring a program that would track the history of a case and how the different rulings are connected, like a family tree for legal cases. So you could see which precedents are still valid and which ones have been overturned.
That's really cool.
They'll even have digitally compiled syllabuses for each published case, so you can get a concise summary of the key points, without having to read through tons and tons of legal text.
It sounds like they're really serious about making legal information more accessible and understandable for everyone, not just the lawyers and the judges. I mean, this e-library could really be powerful in empowering citizens to, participate more actively in the legal process.
Absolutely.
But what about the people who actually work within the system? The plan also mentions a Philippine judiciary online learning platform.
Right.
How could that, transform training for judges and court personnel?
So this is where things get really interesting. Imagine a platform with interactive courses, videos, and even access to foreign journals and jurisprudence. It would make training so much more accessible, especially for folks in remote areas. And it would allow judges to constantly update their knowledge, which is crucial in such a, rapidly evolving field.
So it's not just about, that initial training. It's about creating this culture of continuous learning,
Exactly.
professional development.
Yeah, they're recognizing that judges need access to the latest legal developments to make those really informed decisions.
Right.
And by offering all these online resources, they can create a much more, dynamic and engaging learning environment.
That's a fantastic idea. It sounds like they're really trying to create a modern and dynamic learning environment for everyone involved in the justice system.
Right.
But, training is only one part of this. What about the day-to-day operations of the courts?
Right.
That's where this e-court system version 2.0 comes in.
You got it. And this is where they're aiming for a complete overhaul, really, with a focus on creating this user-friendly, single-window experience for all court interactions.
Single window. Okay, I like the sound of that. It's like they're taking inspiration from, the online world where everything is just a click away. But what would this look like in practice? What kind of features can we expect from this e-court 2.0?
Well, the biggest one is getting rid of as many manual processes as possible.
Okay.
So think e-filing, digital rollout, e-payments, even automated case assignments to eliminate any human bias.
So everything's streamlined and digital.
Everything.
No more stacks of paper being shuffled from office to office.
Ooh,
All right, sign me up for that. But what about, the more complex aspects of a case, like managing deadlines, scheduling hearings, keeping track of all the moving parts?
Don't worry, they've got that covered.
Okay.
eCourt 2.0 will have this built-in workflow system
Yeah.
that automatically generates documents, moves cases through the system. It even sends reminders and notifications
Oh, wow.
to keep everyone on track.
It's like they're taking, all the best parts of project management software
Exactly.
and applying it to the court system.
Exactly. And to make sure everything runs smoothly, they're going to be updating the rules of court to reflect all these new digital processes and make sure that everyone's on the same page.
That's really crucial. It's not just about the technology. It's about making sure that the legal framework, is up to date.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to another really key aspect of this plan, revising the rules of court to make them more user-friendly and more transparent.
Okay, now that piques my interest because legal language can be so dense and confusing for, the average person. What are they doing to actually make these rules more accessible?
They're going to be doing a comprehensive review of all the existing rules, simplifying the language, clarifying procedures, outlining how to file a complaint, how to attend a hearing, all the aspects of a case. They want people to understand their rights and responsibilities.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, that transparency and clarity can really go a long way in building trust in the system. But I imagine revising, the entire rules of court, that's a massive undertaking.
It is. And to make sure everything is consistent, they're also planning to create this really comprehensive compendium of rules, bringing all those rules together in one easy-to-access place.
So no more searching through a million different sources to find the right rule.
Yeah.
That would be a huge improvement.
Huge. And then to address the issue of all these scattered court issuances, especially those that came out during the pandemic, they're planning to do a complete compilation, create this central repository for all the orders, circulars, guidelines.
That makes sense. It's about, bringing order to the chaos.
Yeah.
Making sure that everyone is working from the same playbook.
Exactly. Clarity, consistency, and accessibility are really the driving forces behind all these efforts.
This is all incredibly impressive. But with so much reliance on technology, one question that keeps popping into my head is, how are they going to make sure that all of this is sustainable?
Right.
I mean, in the long run, what happens if the system crashes or gets hacked?
Right. Well, that's where the robustness and resilience of their ICT infrastructure comes in. Think of it as the foundation upon which all these digital systems are built. They need a system that can handle, all these fluctuations in demand, withstand any unexpected events, and, adapt to future growth.
So it's not just about the bells and whistles of the technology.
Right.
It's about making sure that, the foundation is solid enough to support it all.
Absolutely. And they're not just focusing on the hardware and the software, they're investing heavily in the people. Think training programs, clear guidelines, and a culture that embraces technology as a tool for positive change.
It sounds like they're trying to create a system that's both innovative and resilient.
Exactly.
Which is a pretty impressive combination.
And they're not afraid to, learn from others. They're looking at what's worked in other countries and adapting those lessons to fit the unique context of the Philippines.
That's smart. I mean, it's always a good idea to learn from those who have, already done it.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, this is about more than just technology. This is about people's lives.
Right.
How will all these changes actually impact the everyday Filipinos who interact with the justice system?
Well, imagine a system that's faster, more transparent, easier to navigate. A system where you can file documents online, track the progress of your case, and receive, notifications all without having to physically go to a courthouse. That's the transformation they're aiming for.
Okay, now that's starting to paint a picture.
Yeah.
It sounds like a system that's much more user-friendly.
Right.
Especially for people who might be intimidated by, the traditional court process.
Absolutely. And it's not just about convenience. It's about empowering people and making the system more responsive to their needs.
I mean, for someone in a remote village, the ability to, participate in a hearing remotely,
Right.
that could be life-changing.
Absolutely. And for legal professionals, it means they can spend less time on those administrative tasks and more time providing quality representation.
So everyone wins.
Oh.
The litigants, the lawyers, and even the judges.
Exactly.
Who can focus on what they do best, upholding the law.
Right. It's about creating a more efficient and equitable system for everyone.
Now, while we're on the topic of fairness, are there any potential downsides or risks to all of this modernization? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true.
That's a really important question. And, the plan doesn't shy away from addressing potential challenges. One concern they highlight is data security and privacy.
Right.
With all this sensitive info stored digitally, there's always, the risk of cyber attacks or data breaches.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Especially, in a world where cyber threats are becoming more sophisticated all the time.
All the time.
What are they doing to, mitigate those risks?
Well, they're implementing really robust security measures.
Okay.
Investing in the latest technologies to protect that sensitive data and making sure they're in compliance with all the data privacy laws. They get that, to build trust, you have to safeguard people's information.
That's good to hear. But data security isn't the only potential challenge, right?
Right.
What about the digital divide? I mean, not everyone in the Philippines has equal access to technology or even, the skills to use it.
You're absolutely right. And they're very aware of that. They're working on strategies to bridge that divide.
Okay.
Providing training, expanding internet access, and designing systems that are as user-friendly as possible, even for those who might not be that tech-savvy.
So it sounds like they're really trying to make sure that these benefits reach everyone, not just those who are already digitally connected.
Exactly. And they're also thinking about the potential impact on jobs.
Okay.
As some tasks become automated, there's always a risk of displacement. So they're exploring ways to, reskill and upskill court personnel, make sure they're ready to thrive in this new digital environment.
So it's about bringing everyone along on this journey, not leaving anyone behind.
Absolutely. And that includes addressing concerns about bias.
Oh, interesting. Bias in technology, how does that work?
So algorithms are only as good as the data that they're trained on. If that data reflects existing biases in the world, well, those biases can actually get baked into the technology and create unfair outcomes.
Oh, wow, that's a really sobering thought.
Yeah.
How are they, guarding against that?
Well, they're committed to using diverse and representative data sets to train their algorithms.
Okay.
And they're going to be implementing mechanisms to monitor for bias and ensure fairness in the decision-making processes. It's about using tech to promote justice, not to, reinforce inequality.
It sounds like they're really trying to get this right,
Yeah.
approaching this transformation with a lot of thought and care.
They are, and they're not doing it alone. They're collaborating with a wide range of partners, government agencies, tech experts, civil society organizations, even international institutions.
It's a true team effort bringing together, the best minds to tackle this.
Exactly. They recognize that collaboration is key to success, and they're committed to working together to create a justice system that's really fit for the digital age.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the vision, but what about the reality? What concrete steps are they taking, right now to make this all happen?
They're actually already making significant progress.
Okay.
The e-court system is being rolled out in phases with pilot programs underway. They're also actively developing that judiciary e-library and the online learning platform.
So it's not just talk, it's action. That's
Yeah.
encouraging. But this is clearly, a long-term project.
Yeah.
What's the timeline? I mean, when can we expect all this to be fully implemented?
Well, they're aiming for a phased implementation. Some initiatives will roll out faster than others. It's complex
Right.
and want to make sure everything's done properly. But they are moving with a sense of urgency, recognizing that the need for modernization is pretty pressing.
It's exciting to see this transformation in action.
Yeah.
It feels like they're pioneering a new era for the Philippine justice system.
And it's an era with so much potential. By embracing technology thoughtfully and responsibly, they can create a system that's more efficient, transparent, and equitable for everyone.
Now, I know we've thrown a lot of information at our listeners, but before we move on, what are some key takeaways that you want them to remember from this deep dive?
I think the biggest one is just the scope and the ambition of this plan. This isn't just about tweaking a few things here and there. It's about a fundamental transformation of the entire justice system.
It's a really bold vision. It has the potential to, reshape the legal landscape in a very profound way.
Absolutely. And secondly, this is about people.
Right.
This is about using technology to empower people to make justice more accessible for everyone.
So it's about humanizing the system,
Yeah.
not dehumanizing it.
Exactly. And finally, I want to highlight the importance of collaboration. This isn't a solo mission. It's going to take the government, the judiciary tech experts, and most importantly, the Filipino people themselves.
It's a shared responsibility. And it's really inspiring to see so many people coming together to make this happen.
It really is. This is a story about innovation, collaboration, and, the pursuit of justice in the digital age. And it's a story that's still being written, but, the early chapters are definitely filled with promise.
I couldn't agree more. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. What other innovative uses of technology can you envision to further enhance the justice system and ensure, equal access to justice for all?
That's a great question and one that deserves a lot more thought. The possibilities are really endless as technology continues to evolve, and so too will the ways that we can use it to create a more just and equitable world.
I can't wait to see what the future holds, for the Philippine judiciary and for the pursuit of justice in the digital age. Picking up where we left off, I think what really stood out to me about this whole plan is this focus on sustainability.
Right.
It's one thing to launch all these shiny new systems, but how do they make sure they'll actually last? Stand the test of time.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's like building a house. You could have, the most amazing facade, but if the foundation is weak, the whole thing is going to collapse.
Right.
And that's why they're putting so much thought into building this super solid ICT infrastructure.
Yeah.
One that can adapt and grow, right alongside the justice system.
So it's not just a quick fix.
Yep.
It's about creating something that's built to last.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the hardware and the software, too. They're also making huge investments in the people who are actually going to be using all these systems.
Okay.
Think robust training programs, clear guidelines, a culture that, actually embraces tech as a tool for positive change.
It sounds like they're really going for a system that's both innovative and resilient,
Yeah.
which is a pretty impressive combination if you ask me.
And they're not afraid to learn from others either. They're looking at what's worked in other countries and, they're figuring out how to adapt those lessons to the Philippines.
That's smart. It's
Yeah,
always good to, learn from those who have already paved the way.
absolutely.
But, at the end of the day, this is about more than just fancy technology.
Right.
This is about real people's lives. How are all these changes going to affect, the everyday Filipinos who are actually dealing with the justice system?
So imagine a system that is faster,
Yeah.
more transparent, and way easier to navigate. You can file stuff online, you can track your case, you get notifications, all without even having to go to a courthouse. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the kind of transformation that they're going for.
Okay. That definitely paints a picture. It sounds like a system that's way more user-friendly,
Right.
especially for folks who might, feel intimidated by that traditional court process.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just convenience. It's about empowering people, giving them more control over their legal matters and making the system way more responsive to their needs.
I mean, for someone in a remote village, just being able to participate in a hearing remotely
Right.
could be a total game changer.
Absolutely. And then for legal professionals, it means less time on admin tasks, more time focusing on providing, high quality representation for their clients.
So really everyone wins.
Everyone wins.
Litigants, lawyers, and even the judges
The judges too.
who can then, zero in on what they do best,
Exactly.
upholding the law.
It's all about creating a more efficient and equitable system for everybody.
Now, while we're on the topic of fairness, are there any potential downsides or risks with all this modernization? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true.
That's a really good question. And the plan does acknowledge that there are going to be challenges. And one of the big ones they highlight is data security and privacy. With so much sensitive information being stored digitally, there's always a risk of cyber attacks
Right.
or data breaches.
Yeah, that's a valid concern,
Yeah.
especially these days when, cyber threats are getting more sophisticated all the time.
All the time.
What are they doing to sort of lessen those risks?
Well, they're putting some really tough security measures in place, investing in, cutting edge tech to protect data and making sure they're following all the data privacy laws. They understand that building trust means keeping people's info safe.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
But data security isn't the only possible challenge, right?
Right.
What about that digital divide? I mean, not everyone in the Philippines has easy access to technology or even the skills to use it well.
You're absolutely right. And they know that's a big issue. They're working on ways to bridge that gap.
Okay.
Things like offering training programs, expanding internet access, even making sure the systems are user-friendly for people who might not be as super tech-savvy.
So they're really trying to make sure that everyone benefits,
Everyone.
not just the people who are, already connected.
Exactly. And then there's also the potential impact on jobs to consider.
Okay.
As things become more automated, there's that risk of job displacement. So they're looking at ways to help court personnel learn new skills and, thrive in this new environment.
It's about, bringing everyone along on this journey,
Yeah.
not leaving anybody behind.
Not leaving anyone behind. And that includes addressing concerns about bias in the tech.
Oh, that's interesting. Bias in technology. How does that even work?
So algorithms are only as good as the data they learn from, right?
Oh.
So if the data reflects, real world biases, then those biases can get built into the technology, and that leads to unfair outcomes.
Wow, that's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
So how are they guarding against that?
They're really committed to using data that represents everyone to train their algorithms. And they're setting up ways to check for bias and make sure that decisions are being made fairly. It's about using technology to promote justice, not to make existing inequalities worse.
It sounds like they're being super careful and thoughtful about all of this.
They are. And they're not trying to do it all on their own.
Okay.
They're working with lots of different partners, government agencies, tech people, people from civil society, even international organizations.
It's a real team effort,
It is.
bringing everyone together to tackle this challenge.
They know they can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Collaboration is key. And they're all about working together to create this, justice system that is really made for the digital age.
So we've talked a lot about the big picture, but what about what's happening right now?
Right.
What are some concrete things they're doing to make all this a reality?
They're actually making some pretty big strides already.
Right.
The e-court system is being rolled out in phases. There are pilots happening in courts across the country. They're also building that judiciary e-library and that online learning platform.
So it's not all just talk. They're really putting things into action.
They are.
That's great to hear. But obviously, this is a long-term project. What kind of timeline are we looking at here? When can we expect all of this to be fully up and running?
They're planning to do it in stages. Some things will be ready sooner than others. It's a huge undertaking, and they
Mhm.
want to make sure it's done right,
Yeah,
but they are also moving quickly because they know how important modernization is.
it's really something to see this transformation happening right in front of us.
It is.
It feels like they're leading the way into this new era for the Philippine justice system.
And it's an era that has so much potential. If they use technology in a thoughtful and responsible way, they have a real chance to create a system that is more efficient, more transparent, and fairer for absolutely everyone.
I know we've covered a ton of information, but before we move on, I just want, touch on some key things that you want our listeners to really take away from this.
So I think the biggest thing is just how big and ambitious this plan is. This is not about making a few small changes. It's about transforming the entire justice system.
It's a bold vision, and, it has the power to really change the legal landscape.
It does. And then the second thing is that this is all about people.
Right.
Using technology to empower people, to make justice more accessible to everyone.
So it's about making the system more human, not less.
Exactly. And the last thing I want to emphasize is how important collaboration is. This is not a one-person job. It's going to take the government, the courts, tech experts, and most importantly, the Filipino people to make this happen.
It's a shared responsibility.
It is.
And it's really inspiring to see everyone coming together to make this vision a reality.
It's incredible. This whole thing is a story about innovation, about collaboration, about pursuing justice. In our digital world, it's still being written.
Right.
But the early chapters are looking really good.
I totally agree. Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about. What other cool ways can you imagine using technology to make the justice system even better and make sure that everybody has equal access to justice?
That's a really important question, and one that we should all be thinking about. There are so many possibilities. As tech keeps getting better, we'll have even more ways to use it to create a world that's more just and more fair.
I'm really excited to see what the future holds for the Philippine judiciary and for, how we pursue justice in this digital age. It's amazing, just thinking about all of these changes and these advancements. Technology is a powerful tool, but it's really up to us to decide how to use it right.
That's so true. Technology itself isn't good or bad. It's how we use it, especially when it comes to the justice system. We have to be really careful, how we design and implement these new technologies.
It's not just about, getting the newest gadgets. It's about using technology in a way that supports fairness, equity, and, make sure everyone has access to justice.
That's exactly it. And, that means we always have to be paying attention, having conversations, and being willing to adapt and change course as we learn, more about how all this tech is impacting the justice system.
So it's not like you do it once and you're done. It's a process of constantly getting better.
Exactly. And it's a process that needs everyone to participate, not just, the people in charge, citizens, lawyers, judges, tech people, people who make policy. We all have a role to play in figuring out what justice looks like, in this digital world.
So we can't just sit back and watch it happen. We have to be involved, ask questions, and make sure the system is doing what it's supposed to do.
Absolutely. The future of justice isn't something that someone just hands to you. We have to create it together.
Now, I know we've been talking mostly about the Philippines, but I'm curious, what's happening in other countries. Are there other places that are using tech to modernize their justice systems?
Oh, yeah. Definitely the Philippines isn't alone in this. Lots of countries are realizing that they have to adapt, to this digital age. There's actually a whole global movement happening right now focused on something called digital justice.
Digital justice, I like that. What are some of the interesting examples you've seen?
So one that comes to mind is Canada. They've got these online platforms for resolving certain civil cases, without having to have a traditional court hearing. It's been working really well for, small claims and making the system less scary for people who can't afford a lawyer.
That's a great example of how tech can make things more efficient and, less intimidating for the average person.
Exactly. And then there's Estonia. They've gone all digital, like their entire court system is online.
Wow, a fully digital court system. That's incredible.
Yeah, they're seeing some really impressive results. Cases are getting resolved, faster, costs are down, and it's way easier for people, who live far away or who have disabilities to access the system. It really shows what's possible when a country goes all in on technology.
It's amazing how technology can break down those barriers and make justice more accessible to everyone. And these are just a couple of examples, right? I bet there are lots of countries trying new and innovative things.
Oh, yeah, tons. There are online courts popping up all over the place, like in Singapore and the UK. Even Brazil is looking at using AI to help judges make better decisions. It's a worldwide trend, and it's only going to get bigger.
It sounds like we're on the verge of, a really exciting time for justice.
Yeah.
But like with any big change, there are bound to be challenges along the way, things we didn't expect.
You're right, there will definitely be bumps in the road, but the important thing is to be open to working together, be willing to listen to different ideas and learn as we go.
So it's about, being excited about the possibilities, but also being aware of the potential problems.
Exactly, and remembering that technology is just a tool. We're the ones who decide how to use it to create a better and fairer world.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. Thanks for being here today and talking with us about, the Philippines modernization plan and all the exciting things that are happening in the world of justice.
It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy these conversations.
And to all our listeners out there, keep thinking about this. Talk about it. Ask questions and get involved. The future of justice is something we all have a say in.